Hey everyone, it's Marla. Thank you all for joining me once again. I want to talk to you today about the energetic shifts that we've been going through. The energy has been pretty intense, to put it mildly. I know I've been very quiet. I was on vacation for almost 2 weeks, and I was able to get away. I went up to Maine actually, and I spent some time in Acadia National Park. If any of you know where that is, it's like mostly on an island, and it's so beautiful. It's coastal, but it's also lots of lakes and woods, and I was able to just do a lot of hiking and be in nature most of the day. Of course, hindsight's 2020, and a couple months ago I just had this urge out of nowhere, like I have to go to Maine. And I've been there a few times, but I haven't been there in a while. And I kept asking, like, why am I going to Maine? I just had the urge was so strong. I know that I talk about doing grid work a lot, but at that time I couldn't really see like an obvious grid connection that I was making. Yeah, so now I think that it really was just about getting me out of my regular routine so that I could really be outside and ground, because it was around that time where a huge amount of dark energy was being released. I posted a video yesterday on Light and Liberty about an astrology aspect that I saw happening in July, and it was with the asteroid Yeshua has been opposing asteroid Lucifer, and it was actually the day of the Olympic opening ceremonies that aspect perfected, but it really was in effect all of July, and it's only around Lionsgate where it started to separate. And I felt like that was shown to me in the chart as a reflection of the battle of light and dark, I want to say, that has been happening. And we see it in the intensity of the collective. So, what I wanted to share with you today was how it's like the intensity of division has really been turned up a notch. And I think that everyone that's a light worker can feel it. Um, I'm very empathic. A lot of you ask, like, how do you always know exactly what I'm going through? It's because I'm kind of like a super empath, and that enables me to make videos for my soul family. But it also means that, that I have to be like an antenna that's tuned in. But even knowing that, sometimes I don't necessarily make the connection between what I'm feeling and what is going on in the collective. And maybe part of that was because I was away and I was able to spend a lot of time in nature and ground that. But I personally have been feeling very depressed lately, and I'm not normally a person that is depressed. So I was like, where is this coming from? What's going on? And then I realized that, whoa, it's just like this collective energy. And I think a lot of it comes from a lot of people feeling right now helpless, and like things are out of control, things are very chaotic. There's a lot of anger and aggression, division, as I said. And so, what I wanted to talk to you guys about today is how we, as light workers, need to step out of this divisive role right now. As I said, hindsight is 2020, and as I started thinking about this morning, I was thinking about the other videos that I posted this year. Some that come to mind are the video about moving from union to unity and how we're getting called to work on the collective energies more and more rather than just focusing on unity or on union rather, because many of you have mastered that. But I think we can all see in the bigger picture of what is happening that we really need to be focused to help the collective be anchored, be grounded, and be able to move through this. And so we are constantly being asked to look at the bigger picture and where we are within the bigger picture. So, right now, here's the issue. Even as light workers, as people that are awakening, we still are often very, very polarized and divided. And we need to start breaking through this barrier because things are going to get more intense. And basically, what they're doing, when I say they, I mean, I don't know, the matrix, the dark forces, the negative ETs that are trying to interfere with humanity, is they're turning up the division even more. They're looking for more ways to divide us. And that, when I did that video about Yeshua and Lucifer asteroids, and I talked about it regarding the Olympic opening ceremonies, and that was an example of it. How we need to see things like that, because this in and of itself is a polarized situation, right? What happened? And you could see even within the light worker community, something like that comes up and it creates all this division and polarization because we're all coming from these different perspectives and different perceptions of what is happening. One of the ways that the dark forces are doing this is by identity politics. And how they're controlling our mind is by putting everybody in all these little boxes. And when they put us in these boxes, they create a narrative for all the people in that box. Like, okay, this is how everybody that is on the left is. This is how everybody on the right is. But it even goes further within that because within the left and right, there's all these subcategories. Like one thing I think about the Olympic Games is they, like gay people are, or we could say the LGBTQ community, right? That's an identity. And so the powers that be, the dark forces, they want to create a narrative of all the people in that box, and this is how they are. But how could that be true? Because that's a whole community. That's like millions of people. And so within that community, there's going to be widely varying ideas, ideology about um, about everything. And within that community, there's going to be people on the left and there's going to be people on the right. But do you see how they want to mind control us? Because they want everybody to think that that whole group is the same. And so, in that way, they create a representation of something, and that creates a program within us. And of course, there's lots and lots of things. But I mentioned that one because when I talk about the Olympics, of course, one of the things is because there was so many, because there was a strong element of the LGBTQ population portrayed in that. They were trying to control the narrative through that and touch on that programming in everyone, whether it's one way or another way. And that enhances the division. Like what I talked about in my video is that I didn't want to focus on that element of it because there was a much larger picture or ideology that was being portrayed in it. But I think that maybe is a good way to kind of start to think about identity politics and putting people in boxes and the brainwashing. I mean, I have a lot of friends that are gay and they're wildly different. So we have to remember that they're always trying to rewrite the narrative of all these identities. Just like they're trying to rewrite the narrative about what it means to be of conservative values. And they want to paint that to be everybody that is of a conservative bent must be some kind of crazed far right extremist that wants to make the world into what was that movie, that book? I can't remember the name of it now, but where, the United States was taken over by this religious group. I read the book and I watched the series and it was very good. But that's far from the reality of the millions and millions and possibly billions of people on the planet that have a more conservative bent. Of course, we need to think about that on the other side as well. And how, it's really like it's the dark forces that's behind all this. And they want us to think that we're all enemies. And we have to, right now, as light workers, find more and more ways to come together, especially as this division is being increased. I might have an interesting take on this because I'm someone that's making videos on YouTube. And so I'm putting myself out there. I remember when 2019 and 2020, 2021, and I tried to really hold a very moderate, middle of the ground view. I tried not to ever offend anybody. And when I was in that place, what would happen was I would be attacked by people on the left and people on the right because they were all projecting on me like their own issues. And that helped me, begin to see projections and how people viewed me. I still do get criticized from people. In fact, someone not that long ago, when I posted something political, it was not even like that political, but they were like saying that I have a skewed perception of the reality of things, probably because of, I don't remember the details, but maybe because of being American or whatever, or being more conservative. And what I want you guys to know is that I'm a very self aware, self reflective person. And I think as light workers trying to navigate this energy, that's what we have to do. I'm constantly asking myself, where is this coming from? What are these feelings coming from? Am I being too extreme? Am I getting sucked into this collective energy? Do I need to find my way back to love? Are the things that I'm thinking full of love? Is what I'm expressing full of love? Or am I falling into the trap of the matrix and the dark forces? Is this something that's programming coming through? And if I feel like it's programming, I clear it and I have the tools to clear it. I've also experienced many sides of things. Like I'm a person that has always changed a lot, evolved a lot, probably because I have Pluto conjunct my ascendant. And so I've gone through many transformations in who I am. And I think that helps me to be able to see multiple sides of everything. And of course, as we awaken, we can look at these things in multiple ways. Again, on my other channel, I posted a video not long ago of looking through politics through different levels of consciousness, from the third, fourth, fifth levels of consciousness. And as light workers, we're always moving through these levels. Even if we believe, like, oh, you hear people say, I'm always in the 11th dimension. Well, maybe, but we're supposed to ground these energies here. And so we do need to come down into the lower levels at times, because we're here to help other people see these higher and higher perspectives and to actually anchor them. We're here to bring our soul down into the physical. So as we enter this intense time of division and polarization, as light workers, let's try to find some balance and understanding. So, how can we step out of the programming that's being used to cause this division? And I tried to think of a very simplified way to look at the division in a way that's complementary rather than divisive. So, if we look at what we would call the left, progressive, democratic, we would say probably that their biggest concern is that they want equality for everybody. Now, of course, there's thousands of things that are also go along with that. But if we really wanted to simplify it, couldn't we say that equality is the main issue? And so what triggers them are things that they're viewing as creating inequality. So racism, discrimination, injustice. If we were to simplify what we would call the right, conservative, Republican, obviously in other parts of the world, they have different terminology as well, but I'm sure everyone gets the idea. And we simplified it down into one word that really summed up what they wanted. I think we could use liberty, because that side really is about wanting the freedom to be able to do the things that they want to do. And what becomes the trigger then for them is communism, or having freedoms taken away. So if we were to simplify it down to these two things, what we would find is that these are very complementary energies. You can't have equality without liberty, and you can't have liberty without equality. And it's something that has to be a fine-tuned balance of energy. And when you reach that balance, then you begin to have a union of ideas. And I would even go so far as to say, like, this is our mission as light workers, to fuse liberty and equality throughout the world, so that people have the freedom to express themselves. They have the freedom to experience the things that they want, and that they can do so in a way that affords them equality. So not being judged or discriminated against because they want to experience this thing. And maybe, 2 years later, they want to experience something else. As I just said, like we're always evolving and changing. So if we were to take all the rhetoric and all the hatred and all the identity politics out of it, we would see that really we just want, if not the same thing, at least a complementary thing that can't exist without the other. I want to actually take the time to define these because I think even these words can have a lot of different meanings. So I want to define them as I am viewing them. Liberty means the condition in which an individual has the ability to act following his or her own will, and alternatively, achieve their potential within the context of other words like political freedom. They argue that liberty without equality means the domination of the most powerful. Equality. Ensuring individuals or groups of individuals are not treated differently or less favorably on the basis of their specific protected characteristics, including areas of race, gender, disability, religion or belief, sexual orientation, and age. So here's the truth that we have to understand about equality and liberty that's going to just dissolve all the division. Equality and liberty cannot be legislated. It's not something that is given to us by the government or that can be controlled by the government. So the idea that we have to divide ourselves because we're fighting for our government to create this or that is not actuality. You can't legislate equality. And I think that is where the left goes wrong, is they want to create all these laws trying to create equality, but really by making these laws, all they're doing is stirring up division and controversy and not creating equality. But that's the whole idea of the dark forces, because the dark forces do not want equality and liberty. But equality really comes from our heart. It comes from love. It comes from being an awakened person that doesn't hold discriminatory views towards other people. I mean, we've seen that in societies, haven't we, when we tried to pass laws? But why we haven't really resolved the issue of equality is because it's not about a law. It's about finding Christ consciousness and love in our heart so that we see beyond all the identity politics. All identity at all, I should say. The best way to do that is to actually talk to people. Another way that I'm very fortunate is because I get to work with all of you one-on-one. And so I get to meet people from all over the world, all different backgrounds, all different experiences. And so one of the ways that I quickly come back to love and equality is by just talking to you guys. And you can't hold those discriminatory views when you're talking to people one-on-one because you see the truth of who they are. It's only when we try to categorize these people into groups, communities, boxes, identities that we're able to hold these prejudices. And that's really the distortion of the Aquarian age. And at least for the first 10 years, probably, that Pluto is transiting through Aquarius, we're going to have to deal with this shadow energy of what community means, because we can't really have the age of Aquarius until we work through all of these issues. All these different communities can, in fact, create inequality. We often think that the age of Aquarius is going to be the answer to everything. But one of the rulers of Aquarius is Capricorn. Not Capricorn, Saturn. Saturn, so authority, structure. And the thing is, you can't have a healthy community without some sort of structure. But it has to be, going back to liberty, it has to have a structure that gives people freedom. So when we think about liberty in terms of light workers, this is our sovereignty. And we can't be sovereign beings without liberty. We have to be free to express ourselves. And again, this is where things like identity comes into play, because when we have this distorted equality energy or distorted inequality, the dark forces are using that to silence people. Because if you try to talk about it in any way other than the prescribed way, you get canceled or criticized or judged, which is, again, that old, it's a distorted energy of Aquarius. We need that Leo, that freedom to be an individual. And being an individual means we can express ourselves any way that we want to. And when we prevent people from expressing the things that make them feel like they're not getting equality, no matter what color their skin is or where they live, then we're silencing people and we're creating inequality. Equality has to include everybody within the society. I think that, one thing that we could really do to help ourselves right now is just have conversations with people that are different than us, that hold different views. Really listen and try to understand why they feel that way. What is behind their perception that makes them want this? And always come back to that we all, as humans, just really want this liberty and equality. The answer to our problem is not on one side or the other, one extreme or the other. The answer to our problem is in the middle. And light workers, remember that. I know a lot of you know that. I know that. But as I was saying at the beginning, when you're very empathic, it's very easy to get pulled into the societal divisions and not and to believe that that is right and want to pull to one extreme or the other. If I again use myself as an example, like a lot of you guys that listen to me, you've been listening to me for years. You know me. I mean, in a way, you don't know me, right? Because a lot of you don't know me on a personal level. Maybe you've never actually met me in person. You've not been to my house, for example. You don't know my kids. You don't know about my growing up years. You don't know, what I studied in school. But you know my heart. You know what I'm trying to achieve here. And yet, some of you would get so angry if you felt like I wasn't taking your side politically. And that would make you think of me differently. A lot of people have, unsubscribed from my channel over the years because of, something that I said politically that offended them. But regardless of who I vote for, this is me. Like what I'm saying, I share my heart on this channel. And so if you get mad, then you're just projecting something onto me that isn't the truth. I'm someone that wants both of these things. I want liberty and I want equality. In my perspective, liberty is the core. And when we have liberty that comes from the heart, has sovereign beings, then we will have reached equality. For some of you, maybe you see equality as being the most important thing. And then it's only when everyone is equal that we will have true liberty. But remember, I think I think whatever angle, we really need to remember that sovereignty, our God-given sovereignty that cannot be taken away, is possibly this circle here that the scale is rested on, because that's key to everything. And so one of the things that we can think about when we're trying to function within this air of political division and social division is, where's the sovereignty in this? Is there sovereignty? And sometimes we have to give people the sovereignty to make choices that we don't agree with, and that's liberty. As we stated, some people might have different ideas about equality, or they may not be ready within their programming to embrace equality, like a universal level of equality. For example, there's people that are existing in extremely patriarchal societies, and they are not ready to see equality between men and women. And again, you can't legislate that, because when you try to legislate that, you're going to create a backlash against it if people are not ready within their sovereignty. And so we can't force these things on people or on groups or on societies. All we can do is stand as beacons of light. But if we're all divided and angry and fighting amongst each other, we're not being beacons of light. So truly, the way to heal is through love and peace. And when the dark forces are turning up the frequency of division and hatred, as it is right now, more than ever, light workers, come back to love and peace. Both Mary Magdalene and Saint Germain have channeled messages through me this year about being in peace and neutrality. What they mean by neutrality is not getting pulled into the extremes, not getting pulled into the emotionality of everything that's happening. The emotions are really being used against us right now to keep things in this heightened energy. But the neutrality is a tool to come back to the frequency of love and to come back to the heart space. When both of them talked about the barriers that we build up around ourselves, these barriers of protection. And, I talk about that a lot in regards to love. But that's true about this political division too, because we put up these boundaries that protect our own beliefs and ideas and programming. And we put up the barrier because we want to shut out everything that is not of that. And we need to bring those down so that we can find the middle ground and we can open up conversations with each other, regardless of where we are on the spectrum. You may need some extra self-care right now, and maybe taking a break from social media. I'm not on social media much, so sometimes I feel bad because I'm not participating with you guys on social media. But personally, I just find that I can't spend a lot of time there because, again, being so empathic, it wants to pull my energy into into emotionality, and I'm self-aware enough to know when I'm being affected. So I spend very little time on there. And it's not because I don't love you all and want to see what you're posting and that sort of thing. It's important too to work on removing the programming, removing the goggles of the matrix right now. I think that's even more important than trying to focus on clearing the world energy. I think the best thing we can do is focus on healing ourselves and getting the clarity within ourselves and removing our own projections. In many ways, we have to go through this, unfortunately, in order to change the world. This is part of it. Things need to happen in these extreme ways in order to awaken people. But we can pray and we can work towards having people awaken and awaken enough to come out of these polarized divisions. So let's meet in the middle. Let's try not to judge other people too harshly, even when they're holding an extreme opposite view to us. And maybe even take a moment to talk to them and find out what has gone on in their experience that makes them feel that way. So thanks for being here with me. By the way, I'm going to be posting some new SRTs soon. One of them is going to be on gaslighting. It's going to be on light and liberty. I don't know where I'm posting this video yet. So the gaslighting one, and it's going to be multiple levels of gaslighting. So clearing gaslighting in personal relationships, political gaslighting, gaslighting from the media, and medical gaslighting. So I hope that you all will take the time to watch that. Also, I have done an SRT on narcissism, and as soon as I get that one edited, I'm going to be posting that. I know that a lot of you have requested that one. So that's going to be clearing narcissistic abuse and also removing the narcissist template from our memory banks. Don't forget, too, guys, that I have done an SRT for world peace that is on light and liberty. And, the ironic thing is the video I did clearing for world peace is my least watched SRT video. And maybe that tells us something about the shadow sides of ourself. That maybe our shadow side doesn't really want world peace at this stage of the game. And again, maybe that's why we have to go through some of these experiences. But I'm sending you all love and peace, and I look forward to connecting with you soon.